We need more accountability. We just learned today that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is set to be quietly reassigned as Donald Trump tries to clean up this political catastrophe that he created by, number one, surging ICE troops into Minneapolis repeatedly against the explicit objection of the officials and the people living there. Number two, emboldening those ICE agents even after they've repeatedly harmed American citizens, then going all in on the cover-up of Renee Good. Covering up Renee Nicole Good's execution already sparked protests, but the cover-up of Alex Preddy's execution was next level. This has sparked a revolution, and now Trump is desperate to throw any cabinet member under the bus. Last night, we learned that Border Patrol Commander-Chief Greg Bovino lost his position. He lost that position and is soon set to retire. Now, that feels good, but it is not enough. We learned today, the breaking news in this video, Kristi Noem is panicked as she is being quietly reassigned from interior deportation enforcement over to the border, which is a much less prominent position where Trump can now say, hey, look, we are cleaning up the bad actors. But no, Trump is the one who ordered them to go all in, and we need broad, sweeping accountability. Some more news that we just got. This is some good stuff. Judge Schlitz, the chief federal judge in Minnesota, has ordered the head of ICE, Todd Lyons, to appear personally in court on Friday and then threatened him with contempt. This is the exact type of accountability that we need. The head of ICE, the director of ICE, Todd Lyons, could be hit with contempt, and this judge did not mince words whatsoever. Read this. He said, "This is one of dozens of court orders with which respondents have failed to comply in recent weeks. The practical consequence of respondents' failure to comply has almost always been significant hardship to aliens, many of whom have lawfully lived and worked in the United States for years and done absolutely nothing wrong." You see the picture we're painting here? Judges in the state, officials in the state, even Republican gubernatorial candidates in the state are dropping out of the race saying, hey, ICE is out of hand. We need accountability for Kristi Noem, accountability for everyone. I mean, you know it's bad when even Democratic Senator John Fetterman, who's basically like a Republican, he tweeted out this morning, @RealDonaldTrump, I make a direct appeal to immediately fire Secretary Kristi Noem. Americans have died. She is betraying DHS's core mission and trashing your border security legacy. Do not make the mistake President Biden made for not firing a grossly incompetent DHS secretary. I like the end goal he's going for, but he wraps it up in his own very centrist language. But going back to this court order, he says, the court has been extremely patient with respondents, meaning ICE, even though respondents decided to send thousands of agents to Minnesota to detain aliens without making any provision for dealing with the hundreds of habeas petitions and other lawsuits that were sure to result. They're basically saying, hey, you're sending all of these troops here to stir shit up, but you're not even helping the courts so that we can clean up the mess you're making afterwards. Respondents have continually assured the court that they recognize their obligation to comply with court orders, and they have taken steps to ensure that those orders will be honored going forward. Unfortunately, though, the violations continue. The court says, the court's patience is at an end. Accordingly, the court will order Todd Lyons, the acting director of ICE, to appear personally before the court and show cause why he should not be held in contempt of court. They are going all in on these mother effers, and this is why. I want you all to remember, for honestly, the rest of your life, these three quotes from these three individuals. These are the most important three quotes that we can remember and not forget, because the Trump administration, in the hours following Alex Preddy's execution, was lying to our face. By the way, if you appreciate the work of independent media, make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed. It is truly the best way you can help boost the message and stay up to date. But these three quotes right here, Greg Bovino said in the hours following, quote, "This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. We know that's not true." Kristi Noem said, quote, "This individual committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts." Kristi, those are not the facts. We also know that is not true. Stephen Miller says, "A domestic terrorist tried to assassinate federal law enforcement." This was after we got the video of Alex Preddy in the street with his phone out, being shoved down, pepper sprayed, his gun taken, and shot. Now they are hiding behind the idea that we need to wait for the investigation to play out, but I want to see all three of these individuals subpoenaed, dragged in front of Congress, and grilled by our most charismatic, articulate players. Maybe an AOC, maybe a Senator Chris Murphy, just grilling the absolute hell out of them. These are absolutely unexcusable, disgusting statements, and now we go to the scapegoating. Sarah Longwell from The Bulwark says, "There's only one thing I like about Trump. He has an unbelievable capacity to humiliate his most ardent defenders by hanging them out to dry after they've defended the indefensible on his behalf. For example, ICE is arresting refugees in Minnesota who are in the country legally, flying those refugees to Texas, re-interviewing them, and then releasing them without a way to get home. Kristi Noem and ICE have a lot of things to answer for. That is why ICE Director Todd Lyons is being drugged in front of Congress and may be charged with contempt. That is why Kristi Noem is being reassigned. That is why Greg Bovino is being demoted. There needs to be accountability. Then we learn Trump knows that they fucked up. Quote, "It's fucked, and POTUS knew he needed to unfuck it." This is what we know about Trump's Monday moves on Minnesota. Trump's most significant move came Monday morning when he dispatched Tom Homan to the Twin Cities and essentially cut Kristi Noem out of the shambolic Minneapolis operation. Soon after Homan's appointment and soon after Kristi Noem was cut out, DHS announced that Greg Bovino, who was occupying the city with his goons, would then leave the state as well. Quote, "He's a cowboy and it was a mess. It was only escalation. No one was going to back down. Homan is going to step in now." To continue, The Atlantic removed Greg Bovino last night. That's the news that everybody heard. And Kristi Noem seems to be next. Read this reporting. A day after the demotion of Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino and his expected departure from Minnesota, Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem is also under internal scrutiny, sources tell CBS News. Noem is expected to keep her job, but here is where they describe Kristi Noem quietly being reassigned during a White House meeting last night. Sources said she was at the White House Monday, facing questions about her department's handling of and response to the killing of Alex Preddy. Her focus is expected to shift from interior enforcement operations to securing the southern border and other priorities. The shifts in DHS also come after Donald Trump called Tim Walz and Jacob Frey and is trying to now tone down the situation overall. Here is a DHS press secretary, Tricia McLaughlin, being asked about Kristi Noem's heinous comments.
I do want to play one thing that happened on Saturday. This is at FEMA at a press conference there. Watch.
The White House has labeled the man who was killed in Minnesota as a domestic terrorist. Is that something you agree with? And have you seen any evidence to back up that claim?
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
Tricia, is the department and the secretary pulling back that label of domestic terrorist from the Alex Preddy situation?
You know what's bad when even Fox News is kind of trying to grill them like, hey, are we still calling this guy a domestic terrorist?
Dana, in this situation, we have seen on the ground in Minneapolis a highly coordinated campaign of violence against our law enforcement. Your viewers have seen the images. And in this case, we saw an individual who he was armed. He got into a physical altercation with law enforcement. He was in the course of obstructing a federal operation, which is a federal crime.
None of this is true, other than the fact that he was armed, but he was legally armed. That's not a justification to kill him. So he was armed, and then law enforcement escalate an altercation with him in which he's pepper sprayed, can't see, and then is pinned to the ground. He gets executed, and you're going to victim blame him?
The Department of Homeland Security, we work every day to make sure we're giving the American people swift, accurate information, and so we'll continue to do that as facts are emerging, as things are evolving.
Then are you standing by calling him a domestic terrorist?
Well, we'll let this investigation that Homeland Security investigators are leading, the FBI is supporting, and CBP is doing a separate internal investigation as well, Dana.
Okay, so I guess it stands. Then.
Ooh, so Fox News is kind of getting snippy there. She said, all right, I guess it stands. Really pinning down the DHS press secretary in the most Fox News way possible by still being soft. I love you all. I'll see you in the next video. Let's continue to grow and push the truth together. Peace out.